Painting is very intimidating. So today I'm going to show you how to make it easier, at least 50% easier. I'm not even exaggerating, and way less intimidating. So this exercise is absolutely perfect if you're a beginner, and it's actually pretty fun. So the idea is that you are able to do something, like actually do something and learn way faster, and actually have some direction of what to do, where to go. Because I feel like the actual struggle of being a beginner, when you're a beginner at making art, at painting, is that you don't really know exactly what steps to follow. It's not so much that painting is hard, but it's that you don't really know what to do. You don't really know what technique is the best, or what method is the best. So I have been making art for a few years. I have been painting for a few years, and I've made quite a bit of progress here. So you can trust me on this one. So I'll help you out, and I'll teach you my method. I'll teach you my technique, which is basically, you've probably seen me do this before if you follow my content for a while. It's basically doing thumbnails. We're gonna be doing thumbnails, which is just painting very small, very tiny, which you might think is like a bit of cheating, right? Because we're making something. If you're gonna paint, you would probably use the entire screen, right? You would paint using the whole canvas, and the idea is that we just simplify that as much as we can, make it as small as we can, and the smaller we do it, the less intimidating it is, right? Because we also spend less time into it. We invest less time, and it's just gonna take less time in general. It's gonna be easier. So we're gonna be doing photo studies today. I'm gonna pull out here a few references. We can start with this one. And I'm gonna do it in real time. I'm gonna do the thumbnails in real time, which I've done in the past. I've showed you my process of doing thumbnails, and I kind of today I want to give you some more insights that I have, especially that I've been getting whilst coaching people. So I have been doing a lot of coaching. If you're interested in being coached by me and getting my help, you can check the first link in the description. You can join my community where I help you. I personally give you help to get better at painting. So we can start with this one. Okay, so how do we actually start painting? How do we actually start doing stuff? So I'm gonna do a thumbnail in color, and I'm also gonna do one in grayscale. If you're a complete beginner, I would really suggest you do grayscale stuff, because color will throw you off. Color will just make things unnecessarily hard, and you can learn color later. Learning color is not extremely hard, but trying to learn color whilst learning to paint like this is going to be very complicated. So we can just skip color for now. I'm just going to do a color demo first, just so because I feel like it's relevant, and also because this has very fun colors, and I wanted to play around with that. So the first thing that I will do is I'm gonna paste. This is important, right? A lot of people kind of skip this stage of the thumbnail. Don't skip this stage. This is important. You want to paste the reference right next to the thumbnail you're gonna make. So you have the reference here, and right next to it, you're going to make like a little rectangle, or like a little square. You want to preserve the aspect ratio of the original. Yeah, kind of like this. Right. So this is the first stage, easy, right? Now what we're gonna do is we're going to paint the background. We're gonna start painting the background. You always want to start with the background. Starting with the background is very important if you want things to look, if you want to have a better workflow and things to be more organized. So just gonna try to get this color right. My computer is lagging a bit, so I might be a little bit slower than usual, which I always say this, you don't really want to spend too much time painting these thumbnails. You want to probably, you don't want to overinvest. You probably want to spend around 15 minutes on each of this, which is very low pressure as well. So that's a bonus. If you are like me and you get burnout very easily, this exercise is gonna be good for you. So it's like here I'm using a lot. We can zoom out a little bit more like this. So the whole idea with this exercise is that you forget about the details. You don't want to zoom in, and you also don't want to paint details or focus on painting any details at this stage. This should be like the sculpting, rough sculpting sketch, if you will. This should be very minimal, kept very minimal in terms of detail. Because we're not painting here for the purpose of painting detail, but to kind of sketch. This would be like some sort of sketch of sketching. So you might ask, okay, why don't we make a sketch with lines instead? We can absolutely do that, but that's gonna be way harder because you already know um how to render. You get to know how to render already to, being able to pull that off is gonna take a bit more skill. It's gonna require you to know a lot more about just adding depth in general. In general. So far we're gonna stick to this one because this method in particular is going to help you with the rough stage, which is basically just focus on sketching the main basic structure and breaking it down to the minimum. We're gonna focus on getting those values to look right. Um, got this part. Okay, so we're getting there. It okay, so we're getting there. Okay, so we're actually getting there. Um, it's just a matter of refining things. Again, you don't want to have an insane amount of detail. You just want to create a little bit of depth. So it's like just let me do a quick comparison or a quick analogy with a sphere. So let me just do a quick comparison or analogy with rendering a sphere. So if you tried rendering a sphere before, like when you're let's say I'm gonna render a sphere here, and I want to render this in a very realistic way with tons of detail. So we're gonna add a lot of value transitions. So I just want you to kind of understand the stage that we're in. Here we have a very simplified sphere. So this would be like the equivalent of what we're aiming for in terms of detail with our thumbnail. And then the rendering stage or the rendered stage of the sphere would be something more like this, which would be the equivalent of also the rendered stage of the painting. But we're not going to focus on rendering yet because that's not the goal that we're aiming for right now. We're focusing more on building the structure so we can blend the values and do the rendering in a controlled way. So this would be more of a rendered sphere. We can even add a little bit more blending, smoother blending, and so you can see the difference between rough and rendered. We want to keep it at the rough stage. We don't really want a whole lot of detail. So that is important that you keep in mind because just it just becomes kind of hard to hold back from adding too much detail um when you're doing this thumbnails. That's why I always say yeah to keep it minimal. Don't overinvest. Don't spend too much time into this. Don't spend even half an hour or an hour on a thumbnail because if you're spending more than 15 minutes, you're doing it wrong. You're doing something wrong. And I'm saying this as I'm taking forever to finish this one. I'm probably gonna take a while because damn, my computer is lagging a lot. It's not an excuse, I swear. I promise. Just gonna try to make it work. Um, all right, so this is also for me again. As I use this as a replacement sketching for sketching the proportions and knowing where things go pretty much. Um, and the idea now is that we just keep adding highlights. If you paid attention, if you saw me painting the sphere here on the side, you'll notice that the way I just added depth and the way I made this look 3D was by adding highlights. So what I did was adding like layers of highlights. So I would start with a flat color like this, a base color, and then I would just keep adding. Okay, I'm just gonna add one layer of highlights. Bam. Now it looks a little bit more 3D. Now I'm gonna add another layer. Uh, Bam. Now it looks a little bit more 3D. Wait, and so on and so forth. You're gonna keep doing this until you get like this level of rendering. But we're gonna separate this two stages with the thumbnail. We're gonna use the thumbnail as a separation. So here I'm starting to add a bit of layer of highlights, and I can go a little bit bright with it because how shiny this face is. I like painting shiny faces. It just allowed me to um they just allow me to paint to add depth in an interesting way with highlights. All right, great. We're actually getting there. Now you also want to use big brush strokes, okay? Especially in the beginning, you don't want to overcomplicate your brushwork and your shapes as well as your values. You want to keep everything just very minimal. So if you're having trouble getting into the right mindset, just practice the spheres. with the specific mindset of just um keeping things this simple and using big brushstrokes. So in this case, well, here let me just add a little bit of color, a little bit of random colors. You want to be playful with your colors as well when you do like color studies. But again, I'm also gonna be completely honest. Color can be a little bit too hard if you're just starting out. So what I would suggest doing really is to basically do the same thing that I'm doing right here, but just I'm using Photoshop. You can just go to adjustments and there's like a setting that says black and white. You can just press it and the whole thing just turns black and white. Keeping the saturation and stuff, and it's really nice. I'm also using the round brush. I'm using a normal brush, a normal round brush for this whole painting. And I'm also using a blending brush, or the mixer brush here in Photoshop to make like the smoother transitions. Here I'm not using it a whole lot though. I'm mostly using the round brush. Mhm. So yeah, this allows me to use opacity in a really nice way, so I can just make like a big brush stroke with a bit of color and add some random color into some areas very easily, almost like if I was applying a filter or something. Yeah, this is probably all right. Notice how I didn't even paint like the facial features or anything. It was just the overall face. Imagine the way a face reflects light without the facial features, or without really thinking about the facial features as facial features, but as planes instead, as just 3D planes that reflect light. That's what you want to what you're gonna care about when you're doing this. We can hint to the eyes a little bit, making a bit of like a shape like this. That can work. No, nothing super crazy, just so we have a bit of context here. So this is like, it is important that you know this is a like a blueprint. This should be like, um, you should make this with future you in mind. Like the future you that's gonna render this, you should make the thumbnails for him. So this means it has to be like use the it has to be it has to have purpose. It's not you're not making the thumbnail just because of the thumbnail, just for the sake of it, but you are really focusing on making it clear, making clear what areas you're going to render when you get to that point. So yeah, it took me forever to make this one, to finish this one. Even though I said you shouldn't spend too much time into this, so I'm sorry for that. Uh, but this was my first painting of the day, so don't hate me for it. Still warming up. All right, I guess that's good. The same thing with the hair. You want to have the same mentality with the hair. The hair is also a 3D object, and you wanted to treat it um like in layers, as I did here with the sphere. You want to same give the same treatment to the hair, as in you want to just keep adding layers of highlights and make your brushstrokes progressively smaller. So I'm probably not gonna add a whole lot of that detail right into this stage because of what I was talking about. That you don't want to. This is not a detail. This is not for detail at all. So this is again just so you know where things go. I'm not even gonna paint the lips or anything. This is seems about fine for this one. And now you might be wondering, okay, but I don't want to do this. Like I want to do actual paintings. I wanted to finish stuff. So how do I translate these thumbnails into actual paintings? Well, you can do one thing that is what I mostly do when I'm painting thumbnails, which is just basically making it bigger. You can just make the whole thing bigger like this. Oops, not like that. I'm sorry. Okay, so just select the whole thing and make it bigger. And now you have a full-size painting, I guess. And now from this point, you just keep zooming in, like the details and everything. And this will allow you to keep on rendering. Let me get rid of this. This will allow you to, jump into the rendering stage in a very nice way. So now it's like, oh, okay, I can focus on the smaller areas now. And this is still like this method's still kind of hard. Like I don't want to say hard because it's not hard. It's actually quite easy. But it's still hard because it's painting is kind of hard when you're starting out and you still haven't figured it out. However, out of all the methods that I've tried, out of all the methods, all the ways that you can start a painting, this is by far the easiest that I found. I don't think there is an easier way to start a painting than this. So here now we can start kind of painting the lips here. and just keep adjusting things. So now all of those little details that I told you not to worry about on the thumbnail stage, now you can start painting those, like, uh you can start painting the smaller strings of hair, and detailing a little bit the smaller planes here. So here, for instance, we can, oh, start painting the eyebrows here. And everything just becomes a lot easier when you know what you're doing, when you know the distinction between, rendering and sketching, like what it actually means to render. So rendering is just adding like more highlights, more values. So if you start your sketch with like a flat color on like specific area, like the nose, for example, that I'm just painting here, then rendering is just basically adding depth into that flat color. Mm, yeah, I'm even adding like almost pure white. I'm basically adding pure white here on the highlights. You can make it look it all right. Damn it. Okay. Let me just liquefy this a bit. Can't be afraid of liquefying things. Like if you are noticing that something is looking kind of off, proportions are looking a little wonky, you can always liquefy it. Hmm. I think we're getting there. Yeah, I'm really struggling to try to talk and paint at the same time. I think I should do like I want to do like longer videos. I'm probably gonna end up doing like voiceovers to like the full time lapse or something. I want to do something like that to the on the channel. Because I don't know, just trying to come up with more stuff when I'm focusing on painting is kind of tough. I just noticed I made the nose super long. Just gonna render it liquefied a little bit. All right, we're getting there. Some people ask me if this same method applies for painting from memory and you're painting from imagination. And to that, I'll answer, not really, not so much. Or well, you could probably because the actual way that thumbnails were used in the first place, like I feel like it just came up with the whole photo study thing, like with thumbnails and this type of stuff. But the original way that thumbnails were intended for was to sketch like ideas and compositions. So I would say thumbnails could work for well, they're proven to work, but for sketching compositions from like imagination without having to do the whole thing on the full canvas, it just makes it easier and quicker to come up with ideas. So yeah, I guess if you're trying to come up with like compositional ideas, yeah, absolutely it will work. But I prefer sketching. If I'm gonna just paint a face or like a body or something, I'm just gonna make like a sketch instead with like lines and stuff because that just allow me to making sketch will allow me to just know where things go. It's just to isolate the areas that I'm gonna render individually. Oh, damn it. I liquefied it and I just messed it up. Also, people were asking me, how do you actually get good at color? Because colors seem to give people a lot of trouble. And I think the answer to that is kind of interesting because to get better at color, I wouldn't even recommend studying color. I wouldn't even recommend like doing, I don't know, trying to get better at color mindfully, I guess, because, well, I personally did not study color or color theory or any of that. You know, it's not like I said, okay, I'm gonna study color. Um, I'm gonna practice my color skills. It just happened. And, you know, you just get better at it, practicing value mostly. So making a lot of value studies, when you do a lot of value studies, and you get better at value, honestly, it doesn't really matter what, if you make terrible color decisions, because your values will carry the whole painting and it's gonna look good no matter what you do. So that's why I always say focus on value, focus on value instead of color, because value is like a compound exercise, just gonna help you get better at everything, everything else. So the way that my mentality when it comes to rendering is that I will go over the individual areas of, in this case, if I'm painting a face, I will go like one by one, one area at a time, without focusing on, okay, I'm gonna paint the whole thing all at once, but instead just trying to paint one thing at a time, because it's like trying to, at this point I'm just painting spheres. It's like, um I separate every area like this, like, okay, this is a sphere and I'm just creating volume, because this is like an isolated plane, so the light is reflecting on this plane, so I'm just gonna uh, render this like individually, and the same thing with each plane, and progressively I'm just gonna keep moving on to the smaller planes. So That's that's what I'm going to be doing, because if you imagine you have in your canvas a bunch of spheres, a bunch of like flat colors that you know they're spheres, and it's like, okay, your task is to render those spheres to make them realistic. You're not gonna try to paint all of those spheres all at once. You're gonna go one sphere at a time, right? That's like the logical thing. That's what makes sense. So it's the same thing here, because in my mind these are spheres. Like every area, like here, I'm painting the chin. This is like a sphere for me. Because of, just the way it reflects light. Also, very important. When it comes to color, please do not color pick from the photo. This like the whole purpose of this is to improve and study. So try, I have my color wheel here right next to me, right next to the painting, so I can just make my own color decisions. And yeah, I feel like this is basically what's gonna get you better, I guess. I have been accused in the past for color picking. So it's like, okay, that means can I get a color if people think I'm them cheating. You also want to be able to exaggerate some things. You don't want things to look one to one perfect. You want to have some fun with your colors and exaggerate them a little bit, especially like the shadows or the bounce light. That is a very good area to exaggerate things. So I could exaggerate, like I could add some bounce light here into this shadow, the shadow of the hair. Well, probably shouldn't, because, well, oh yeah, there's actually a bit of greenish bounce light. So I'm just gonna add a bit of purple bounce light here. Same thing with the hair. It always looked better. So I remember I've always struggled with not with bounce light, but with understanding like how bounce light works. So because I'm kind of stupid, I just ended up calling it like colorful shadows. Okay, I'm too brain dead for this to for understanding how shadows work, so I'm just gonna call it colorful shadows, and that seemed to help. That seemed to help with the whole bounce light thing, and it's just adding color to the shadows, and the cool thing is that you can do that later on. Like it doesn't have to be you don't have to do it in the moment. You can do that later once you already have your shadows established, and it's like just a matter of exaggerating the colors of the shadows. Also, on the rendering stage, when I'm adding a lot of blending and detail, I'm also going to be adding a lot of thin lines, which I just told you. I told you to avoid using thin lines on the early stage, because that's not going to serve you to like carve the planes and the areas of light and shadow. However, on this like more render stage, I like using like hard brush strokes and thinner lines because I feel like that's gonna create some contrast with the realistic face and stuff, especially like on the hair or on the background. I'll do that a lot. So it'll create a nice contrast so it doesn't look I can get away with making things more realistic but without making them boring because because I have a lot of abstraction in my shapes and I'm using a lot of texture. I'm creating a lot of texture with my brush strokes too. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with the hair. I'm trying to add some highlights. So with the hair, with painting hair, um, you just want to approach hair not as hair, but as like as a hard surface or texture. Almost pretend that you're painting a sculpture. If you were painting a sculpture, what would the hair kind of be like? How would you render the hair if it was a sculpture instead of like a real person? You wouldn't really focus on like I mean in the beginning, then later you can just add the little hairs and stuff. There, I can liquefy this a little more. Something's looking off, but I'm not able to tell what. All right, let's see. Hmm, I think I made the face too long. I probably. Hmm. I think it looks kind of okay. I think I'm gonna get rid of this blue bounce light blue color here. I don't know why I added that. It looks kind of weird. Mm, Yeah, it's looking all right. It is important that you do a lot of color studies. Sorry, a lot of photo studies. Photo studies are very important. Then you can, worry about painting from memory and that stuff. Because the main thing that that you have to kind of know what to do if you want to paint from imagination is being able to create depth. And doing photo studies is a lot more fun than just painting 100 spheres every single day. Because as I tell you, here is like you're painting spheres, or you're painting areas of the face that happen to reflect light in a similar way that spheres do. Mm, Let's keep adding some random colors. Just gonna add a little bit of a reddish here. Like, you see how easy, again, it is to kind of overlay colors with this brush onto the face, or like the surface. I can just blend this and it's like, okay, it added this nice color, reddish hue. So if you're looking for a brush, this is the brush that you want. This brush is kind of boring. It doesn't have any texture or anything. It doesn't have any like fun features. Well, I mean, this is kind of a fun feature, right? The fact that you can just you can just overlay hues and value changes and saturation changes onto like anything. So it's like if I want to make this cooler, for example, I can just get out like a cool color like this, and I can just use opacity to make this cooler. And it's like doing this on your painting, it's such a game changer. It's amazing how much easier this makes the whole thing, the whole process. So you're gonna see me do that a lot. So here, this looks kind of boring. I don't know if I want to paint the eyes. It looks kind of cool like this. Looks kind of creepy. Looks like an unfinished sculpture or something. So here, for example, I can overlay some color into the lip area. Some saturation as well. Super easy. And you can be like as subtle as you want. Like it doesn't. This brush does a very good job at being subtle in general. Can use a bit of blue here. And really, a lot of learning color just comes down to adding random colors or exaggerating some colors, putting them on the canvas and seeing, whether deciding whether you like them. I feel like this is more of a rendering video than the thumbnail video at this point. I'm teaching you more how to render than to do the thumbnails. I mean, I guess the good thing about the thumbnails, the thing that really makes it easy is that there's only so many mistakes you can make. Once you get to a certain point, it's like, okay, thumbnails are actually not hard anymore. And when you reach that point, is you're gonna realize, oh my God, I'm not really having issue anymore with um sculpting the forms and creating depth. It's like magic. Here we can find a little bit more. So we could find some more. This area right here. Let's try to change the colors. See if we can make it more fun. Let's see if we can overlay some fun colors into this. I don't know if I like that better, honestly. I think a good mentality to painting to get better at adding depth is to try to make people extra sweaty, when you try to make people, or when you try to make the in this case a face have more highlights, more reflections, you actually have to know where to add those reflections in the first place. And it's like you get your brain to figure out the planes a lot more easy. It's like, okay, I gotta figure out where the highlights are coming from, so I can just add the reflections. And I guess this is a good way to force yourself to do that. To It's just a good mindset. I really suggest exaggerating this type of things, especially the highlights. It's just a very fun thing to do. Um, okay, this neck looks kind of weird because uh, the colors are way different. So maybe I can use a bit of purple here. Yeah, pretend that she's on a nightclub environment or something. So what I do with the highlights is that I would add pure white, literally 100% white, and I would blend like the highlights a little bit so it's not super, doesn't feel super awkward when it feels like there's more of a transition there. So here, oh yeah, I think it looks kind of better now. I think this highlight on the chin might be a little strong, a little bit too strong. The highlights also work for, emphasizing points of focal points, points of attention. So if you want the focal attention to be more on the face, that's a good thing to be playing around with. And when you know how to render like this, you can paint hyper realism if you want to. So I could paint hyper realism. I don't do it because it's kind of boring, but it's not hard. Painting hyper realism is not hard. It just takes forever. And I'm not very patient. I'm not a patient person at all, and I don't even like painting hyperrealism in the first place. The less render I can have my paintings, the better. So I used to be really into painting impressionism, extremely low levels of rendering and just focusing on the basic structure, the most important stuff, like the things that matter the most in a painting, the things that you can really go without. And I guess that really helped me today to, have this solid mindset on how to approach things. Just blending the lips a lot. The lips are always very integrated on the mouth, oh, the rest of the face. So it's like you want to blend it a lot on the face. Like this part of the lips is always going to be more, the edges are going to be more blurry. Liquefying is not cheating, by the way. I say this because a lot of people seem to be very reluctant to use this liquefy tool. You probably don't want to abuse the tool. You don't want to use it for absolutely everything, for things that you can fix with, like, manually with your own brushstrokes. But you also, you probably don't want to say, oh no, it's cheating. I'm never gonna use the liquify tool either. I feel like it's a great tool, and this is, in the end, this is digital medium, so we might as well just use the tools that we're given by God, like Photoshop. God, I really hate using Photoshop. Well, I actually don't hate it. Like, I used to hate using Photoshop, and I don't remember why I started using it. Oh yeah, it was because of the brush engine. The brushes in Photoshop are really, really good. So I actually don't hate Photoshop. I feel like Photoshop has been very good, has been very reliable. So I'm not gonna crap on it too much. It's not perfect. It can, there are some things that I would change. It crashes a lot, and that is always really annoying when, you know, your art software crashes out of nowhere. Sometimes it happens that I'm, God, it's always on like the climax moment when you are in the zone, when you're the most focused and invested onto the painting, that it suddenly just freaking crashes. But I mean, it has like an autosave feature that saves your paintings every five minutes or so. So I have that enabled, of course. That is actually pretty useful. So it's not extremely annoying when it crashes. I don't know how long I'm gonna be rendering this for. It's been already like an hour. Whoa, fantastic! Now nobody's gonna watch this video. God, I really have to make proper like voiceovers. At this stage when it's more like noodling around with my brush strokes and just rendering um the more unimportant areas, it's like okay, I can just talk a little bit more, but yeah, I can't focus on both things at once. If you tried it, it's just uh, damn, it's kind of hard. But anyway, stop. I'm gonna stop complaining now. um, I don't know. I actually wanted to make a few more paintings, but I think it is already too freaking long. I'm gonna try rendering the eyes at the very end. I'm always reluctant to render the eyes because I like having this weird, uncanny looking eyes. It looks more artistic. The implication that there are eyes in there, but not showing them directly. It's kind of creepy, and I love it, especially when you render it um, a lot more and it's more realistic. You know what? I actually think I got this I got this from Ahmed Aldori doing the I don't know, especially at the end, doing the brushstroke thing where you do like scribbly brush strokes that kind of it's like they're following the form, and it is kind of like a break from the realism. It creates a nice contrast where it's realistic, but it's still kind of playful. It's not boring. It doesn't look stiff. So I can probably do something like that for the eyes. Make the eyes a bit more like cartoony or something. I should try to render more my paintings in general. I really don't spend too much time rendering, or I don't spend enough time rendering my stuff. It's like the longest I would spend on a painting is like on a painting like this, maybe like 2 hours. And that if I'm painting super slow. I think I can fake it. I don't think I'm going to render this too much today, but I could probably fake it by adding some texture, like maybe on the shirt. I'm gonna try doing the texture manually. I think I made her neck extra thick. Or I don't know, it's looking a little weird. There, I just fixed it by making it even thicker. Mm, I guess it's looking alright. I don't know. I'm not used to not even this level of rendering, I guess. It's kind of weird to look at it. I just feel like the more I render it, the more I'm just gonna ruin it. The more boring it's gonna look. Because the less um room I just have less room for abstraction. No, here. Is that alright? Okay, now as I said, I'm gonna try to render the eyes now. Oh god, this video is gonna take forever to upload. Alright, let's try it. I I don't know, I never feel confident enough painting the eyes. It looks kind of weird, especially like because I have to do it like at the same time. I have to do it progressively, just as the rest of the face. Um, just as I render the rest of the face, otherwise it's gonna throw me off a little bit. You know, keep progressing with the eyes whilst having an already rendered painting. Okay, let's go. So I'm gonna go up a little bit blue, or just desaturated on the eyes. Uh, Brighter. Probably I'm just gonna go like purplish, like this. A bit more saturated. I guess this looks alright. You don't really want to go super. You don't want to go white. You don't really want to go white like this. You don't want to go pure white with your. I mean, it could work in this case because of the highlights, I guess. But you don't really want to go pure white, especially like you can add the highlights in the end, but not at the very beginning with the whites of the eyes. You don't want to do it extra brighter than you should. So my secret technique for painting eyes is just going very loose. It's almost like I'm drawing them with lines. Not really thinking too much about it. Almost like scribbling on the eyes. I don't think I like this. Probably looks fine. It's always like making like the red eyes. It looks kind of fun. Alright, I think I could stop render this already. Feel like I'm overworking it too much. I'm not super happy with those eyes, but they look alright. Guess here on this side I could just fake it a little bit. Oh well, it's looking alright. This is not extremely rendered either. um, but yeah, it's looking alright for my standards, I guess. I don't know how I feel about the colors. I'm gonna saturate this a little more. Probably make it more like reddish. It's a little shadow. Mm. How can I make this more fun? I guess adding more, even more like lines and texture. That looks right. God, I'm refusing to wrap this up right. I should probably just stop overworking it. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna call it here. Um, I guess this was a successful painting. So I showed you how to go from a thumbnail to um an actual painting. Yeah, I think this video was more about rendering than the thumbnails themselves. But hey, I hope it was useful. If you want more content from me, more content like this, like long format content, you can join my community. And I basically have a bunch of video classes like this. They're more focused on like the fundamentals. So every like all of the steps that you need to get to this point basically are on that Discord server. And it's just like a bunch of YouTube videos, a bunch of video classes. You know that I just get the time to sit and explain how to do things properly. So if you also want to get if you want to get me to review your art and give you feedback and stuff, you can check it out. It's really cool. So I think that's about it. I'll be wrapping this up now. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one.